How's it going, guys? I think that we are live. I'm never sure when these things actually go live. So once I get, okay, it looks like we're live. So we're live, and I have a pocket knife. That can only mean one thing. It means that we have a box to open. So I've got with me a pile of boxes over here that we're going to be unboxing, unraveling. Some of it is rented, and some of it is actually on loan from Sony. So I'm excited because this coming weekend, I'm going to be photographing the NFL again. I usually get to shoot one NFL game a year. This coming weekend, the Philadelphia Eagles at the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to be at that game. So if you want to look for me on the sidelines, you should do so. So let me bring up the chat once we get there. So once you guys pop in here, I'm trying to find my chat actually. Looking for my chat. There we go. Okay. I see you guys. Let me pop this open. Pop out my chat. Pop out chat. That way I can kind of see you guys asking questions if you got some. So I have some fun gear to unbox. Can you guys hear me and everything? Is that okay? So first thing, let's start with a small box. So backstory is I get to shoot one NFL game a year, and it's something that I'm not paid to do. It's like basically I have a relationship, a networking relationship with one of the teams, New Orleans Saints, and I usually get in with full press credentials to shoot one game a year. It is pretty much the highlight of my year because there is no cooler experience than getting to photograph the NFL, especially as a fan of the game. So this will be the first year that I'm not a Canon shooter, which is going to be very, very odd. And so in here I have, this came from lensrentals.com. I ordered some of it, and some of it is on loan from Sony. Yeah, if I can get it out of here. So in these little pouches, we have a pair of teleconverters. I actually already owned one of these, but this is the 2X teleconverter. I hear good things. And this other one is the 1.4 teleconverter. Hello from Chile. Video and audio 100%. Sweet. Hello from China. Very cool. Oh, do the smell. Smells very kind of gluey. Smells a little gluey, but we have the 1.4 and the 2X teleconverters. These are going to be fairly useful, although in an NFL situation, you got to keep your shutter speed up, and you're going to lose just kind of too much light with 2X teleconverter. So I don't know how much I'll be using the 2X, but 1.4 will be useful. I own that, and it's actually a really incredible teleconverter. Most teleconverters, you lose a lot of sharpness. That seems to be the best one that I've ever used. Better than my Canon teleconverter was. All right, let's open this guy. So let's talk gear. So in years previous, I've always just used my 5D Mark IV as my main body. Typically, my 5D Mark III is my backup or second body that I have a wide angle lens on. And then I would have my 100 to 300 or my 120 to 300 f2.8 Sigma. I've been trying to adapt that lens to my current cameras through the Sigma adapter, and it just hasn't gone well. Anytime, like in a sports situation, it's not a good idea to adapt lenses. It slows down the autofocus to the point where getting sharp shots in a sports environment is tough. When you're using native glass on the Sony, it works out okay, like 70 to 200 or the 100 to 400. But neither one of those lenses is really going to cut the mustard for shooting NFL. And I get one crack at this a year, so it's kind of the perfect opportunity to rent. So in here, we have the thing that I rented, and this is something that I'm really excited about for this particular shoot. This, of course, I bet most of you have already guessed what this is going to be. This is an A9. Sony A9, and this is going to be amazing for sports photography because, well, first of all, the fast frames per second, 20 frames per second with mechanical shutter, that's going to be just crazy fast. That's going to be awesome for shooting fast action sports. Also, the no blackout is going to be a really big deal. I've been shooting sports with both the A7R III and the A7 III, and the biggest problem with shooting sports with them is tracking the action. It's not necessarily that the autofocus is bad. The autofocus is pretty good. The autofocus is pretty good. The performance is good, but the biggest problem is the blackout period in between frames. When everything is blacking out in between frames as you're tracking something, it makes it really hard to track it because for a split second it's gone, and then for the next frame it's in a slightly different spot, and it's really easy to kind of drift off of your subject, especially if they're running by you really fast. The no blackout makes things so much easier to track. Like that, I feel like that's been kind of understated in a lot of reviews of this camera. Shooting with zero blackout is going to be a huge deal, and I'm really excited about that. Pretty much the entire reason I got it. The extra frames per second are going to be useful, but frankly, both the A7R III and the A7 III have enough frames per second. But the no blackout, that's a game changer. That's a big deal. That's why I'm excited for that camera. So I have that. I paid money for that, but what I did not pay money for, and what I'm probably the most excited about not paying money for, is this next one. So, I know a lot of people, when I switched to Sony, accused me of being like some kind of Sony sellout, like Sony paid me a ton of money or gave me free gear or something like that, and that is absolutely not the case. I paid money for all of my gear, just like everybody else. But I did reach out to Sony, and they did give me a free loaner when I was thinking about going over to Sony. They have kind of a program designed to, entice some pros into giving Sony a try. And I reached out to those people. They gave me like a 2-week loaner for before I switched over. So I reached out to the same people, and I was like, hey, I'm shooting an NFL game, and it would be really cool if I could get my hands... God, I can't even get it out. Ow. It'd be really cool if I could get my hands on the 400 f2.8 for shooting that NFL game, and I'll do a review on it. And they were like, well, let me get back to you on that, because I am not the first person to ask for that. This is a big box. So, if I can figure out how to open this box. Oh, let me show you guys what I'm seeing here. You guys see that? That's kind of nice. Now that is a lens. This is a $12,000 lens on loan for 2 weeks from Sony. I'm incredibly excited about this. Because this is a lens that I'll never be able to afford on my own. I'm pretty sure I can find other ways to spend 12 grand. But when it comes to shooting professional sports on a Sony system, there is no lens that can hang with this guy. So I'm going to reverently put this over here because the box alone is worth as much as some of my camera bodies. Look at that. That is a piece of glass right there. Ooh, Nelly. That is gorgeous. Look at that. Wow. So, the scary part of a situation like this is that when you borrow something or it's on loan from a camera company, there's not really there's no insurance on it. Like when you rent something from lensrentals.com or borrowlenses.com or one of those, there's always some kind of insurance. But when you get something from a camera company, there's no insurance on it. So I'm going to be walking through the airport with this like close to my body because I'm going to have to fly with this thing somehow. That's probably a story in itself. But this is the 400 f2.8 Sony, massive front element, and it's actually way lighter than it looks. That's pretty cool. It's got a really nice handhold grip. I know from watching reviews that it's got this control ring on the front. Hear that going side to side. And it's going to be so much fun. So I'm going to be on the sidelines for the Philadelphia Eagles versus New Orleans Saints. I'm going to be in New Orleans testing this lens out, and I'm going to do a review on it. I don't know how I'm going to film it because it's not like I have a camera crew like Jared Polin or something. You know, I'm going to do the best that I can. But hopefully I'll come away with a bunch of good images from this lens. This is exciting. And that paired with this A9, I'm incredibly excited about. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Let's see what people are saying here. Monopod, yes. Anytime you're shooting pro sports, let's set this aside. Anytime you're shooting pro sports, monopods, I mean, are just kind of a given. Even if you can handhold it, you can't handhold it for hours at a time. NFL games like 3 hours long, and you don't want to handhold that whole time. That'd be miserable. So typically my setup is going to be my telephoto lens on my main camera body on a monopod, and then strapped to my hip, like on a camera strap, I'm going to have a second camera body. It'll be the A7R3, probably with my 16-35. And I'll probably also have with me my 70-200. That way, if a team is in the red zone and they're getting really close, 400 is going to be too much if they're on the 5-yard line. So at that point, I'll switch over to my 70-200 and do a few shots with that. And then once they're not in the red zone anymore, switch back to the 400 because, yeah. So those just showing up, I did rent an A9. I paid money for this. Sony was kind enough to send this. And I'm thankful for that because this would be a very expensive. I think I was looking at how much it would be to rent. And a 1-week rental is like $800 or something. It's not a cheap lens. So what else we got? What webcam am I using? I'm actually using my A7 III right now. So this is A7 III, hence the shallow depth of field. Kind of nice. Why not ship it to my hotel? That's a good question. Basically, I'm too afraid to ship it to a hotel. Like, I'm worried that something would go wrong and I would be on the hook for it. I'm going to put this in my camera bag, and I shouldn't have any problems, I wouldn't think. It's a piece of glass. I also called my insurance company, and I added just a temporary supplement to my insurance policy for this lens particularly, because it's not covered. This is covered through the Lens Rentals insurance, but I added this temporarily to my insurance. What else we got? Do I think they went with the white body for heat purposes? I have a hard time believing that the color of the lens really makes much of a difference. I kind of doubt that. I think it's just, I don't know. There's just like that prestige that Canon has kind of created of the white giant telephoto on the sideline. I think they're trying to get a piece of that. Does the A9 have rolling shutter issues? Only, from what I understand, it doesn't. Not even in silent mode, or at least it's very, very minimal in silent mode. I know for a fact that both my A7 III and my A7R3 do have rolling shutter issues. Like when you're shooting in silent shutter, electronic shutter, I shot like some golf with it, and you just can't do it because fast action just gets bent and weird, and it's because it's not reading the whole sensor at the same time. It has to do with how quickly that sensor is read from. But the A9 has a very fast sensor where it actually doesn't have any kind of rolling shutter issues. So I could shoot in silent if I wanted to, but I'll probably shoot in mechanical shutter. So Wimberley head. No, I'm not going to do a Wimberley head, just monopod. That's good enough for me. The weight is not too bad. I think it was something like 5 pounds. It's not as heavy as it looks, but it is quite beefy. It's not a tiny lens, that's for sure. It's got both 1/4-20 and 3/8 threads on the bottom. So some big, really beefy monopods actually have a 3/8 thread. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I would ever I have to talk about. Would I ever go back to Canon bodies? I don't think so. I'm very happy with my Sony stuff. Only downsides that I've found so far are I missed my touchscreen on the 5D Mark IV. 5D Mark IV touchscreen was implemented a little better, and I missed the weather sealing because I have started to have just the occasional issue with the A7R III. Nothing that's actually shut my camera down, but it'll just kind of act funny for a little bit. But nothing major. And I really don't miss Canon. Every time I pick up like someone's 5D4, it just feels so giant to me now that I've gotten used to the smaller camera bodies. All right, guys. Well, I guess that's just about it. What do I have for Sony glass now? I have a lot. 100-400, awesome lens. 70-200, 2.8, awesome lens. 16-35, 2.8, awesome lens. I got a 55 millimeter, and I also have recording this right now is the Zeiss 18 Batis, and that is a freaking awesome lens. Amazing lens, and that's actually what I've been using for vlogging lately. Thoughts on the original A7? You can pick them up cheap, but the thing is they're light years behind what Sony's doing now. You know, there's a lot of really crippling features in the early Sonys. You know, there's a lot of it. Battery life is for one, poor focusing systems for two. I personally wouldn't mess around with any of the A7 original or A7 IIs even. If you're going to get an A7 at all, make it an A7 III. Save up for it. Okay, guys. I'm out of here. Thank you guys for hanging out with me while I opened and drooled over this lens for the first time. I cannot wait to test this out and point this at some NFL players. This is going to be so sick. So thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you later. Let's see if I can figure this out. Take it easy, guys.